And that's what I love about the watchmaking is it's this little world of perfection. It's like, how do you get micro perfection? It's not just perfect from here. It's perfect with close-up magnification.
Welcome to Watch Smarts, where smart people get smarter about watches. I'm your host, David Newman. Let's jump right in. Kevin Halbert, some people say, my watch collecting is underwater. But when you come into the picture, your watch collection really is underwater. And by the way, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your backstory and what got you into watches. And I know that your special love is for dive watches. So tell us about that also.
Right. So when I was going through advanced scuba training, learning to be a rescue diver and advanced diver, we would do like 3 dives a day and stuff like that. And we needed a tool that worked. And it was the tool that you could count on that could work at any depth. It had an alarm on it. You had countdown timers. You had all these things. You could bang it around. It was the thing. In the trenches, you were going to survive. It wasn't something that looked good. You know what I mean? And so I was always my watches are all about function. Yeah. And I had a few that were kind of aesthetic, but for the most part, if they don't do something cool, there's some that I liked, but for the most part, I wanted watches they were a tool. I see a watch as a tool, right? Yeah. Not as a status symbol. And so, but by it being a great tool, it is a status symbol among people. So, and like, I don't know. Yeah, well, I'm sure you know every single watch, but like some of the really cool ones would be like a Doxa. They're the ones that are, Rolex didn't used to be a luxury watch. It used to be a tank of a watch. It was the watch you'd hike to the top of Everest. It's the one you would dive. That's why they call it an Oyster and stuff like that. Yeah. And then they became more of what I call Toolery, right? Is that they were...
That's right.
Right? Like, hell, I'm going to wear this Rolex in the bottom of the ocean I just paid $12K for. That's not happening. And it's like... then you're kind of just posing with your stuff. And so I was always into the watches that had real function. In fact, I didn't like, what the least favorite function I've ever seen on a watch is a tachymeter. Nobody uses a tachymeter, but it makes your watch look all like, whiz bang. It's like, who's sitting here timing a car run, on a certain number of units per time. So I just I'm not a fan of. If I see a tachymeter, I lose all interest in that watch.
Well, here's the deal, right? People say, when a race car drivers. Now think about this. Race car drivers going 180 or 200 miles an hour in this basically, steel trap cage death machine. They're going to look at their watch and kind of do some high level calculations based on those little tiny, micro adjustments on the bezel. It's like, no, they're just trying to stay on the track, stay alive and win the race.
Yeah, you'd die if you were looking at that watch.
You'd die if you'd...
It's more like Shelby sitting in the pit. Carroll Shelby sitting in the pit hitting it, right? And he's getting his math back then.
Exactly. Kevin, let me ask you, do you have any family members or role models or mentors who sparked your interest in dive watches?
No, I think my family all got into watches at the same time because we were all divers. My dad got me... I got trained. I became a scuba diver at, I think 12 years old in the 70s. So it's been a while, but, then we really took off when my dad moved to the Florida Keys and started diving in the Keys. And so my dad had a boat called the Sea Hunt, which was part of the old TV series he bought and he shipped out to Florida, and he had 14 tanks all lined up on this, it like a lifeguard boat with, on the deck and full gear, and we could just fire out the engines and go to the reef and dive anytime we wanted. So we were all in on diving a lot. And so, so my dad got a watch. I never got one. I was going to get one. that I always lusted after, which was the original Citizen Aqualand that had a depth gauge. It was like the first watch to have a depth gauge in it, but still, had a little digital anti-digi on it. But it was a super cool watch. It was a larger watch, but actually served a function as being a larger watch. But other than that, me and Bond and I think my other brother were all running around with G-Shocks because that's what all the pros were using, and it was what you could count on. So, so that became the time when I started. Being interested in watches. I got a little into aviation watches for a minute, and I still like them. I mean, some of the Grail watches, I love a Flight Master before they became super popular. I loved that watch before it was popular, and then there was the... what's the one that has a slide rule built into it? I bought one. I had to pay a fortune just to get the little original bezel on it. Oh God, it's is it a Seiko? I forget, but it has literally a slide rule on it. And I saw that from one of my marine biology professors was wearing one, and I was like, "Where is that watch?" And it was like, "This thing has a slide rule. You can do, aerospace." So those were kind of cool. I'm getting off.
No, it's great. So, Kevin, the real question with that last point is, do you know how to use a traditional slide rule?
I have studied it. You know what? I did because I watched videos on it, and then you lose it. Because the thing is, it's not like riding a bike. It's like, I don't know if you know what a Vermeer scale is.
No idea.
Vermeer scale is for using micrometers. Same thing. It's this math, submath till you get to the 0.001 measurement or something. Yeah. And so, but the thing is that they remade this little plastic bezel because it was a circular slide rule. It twisted on a bezel.
Yes.
And it had a little, they call it a cursor ring. And then they made a reproduction of it, but they tinted it a color. I think they made it pure clear, and the originals had an aqua color to it. And they were brittle plastic, and they would break off. But it was this little 1 cent piece of plastic. You had to pay hundreds of dollars for if you wanted the original. Yeah. And so I bought the original to have the original, to leave it in an envelope and never put it on the watch because it was it's too priceless because you can't get that piece that has the original aqua color to it. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the collection. So you mentioned, obviously, some of the Casios, some of the other watches. What's in the collection today? What are some of your favorites? Mine
are just retail Pedestrian ones. If you want the
I love Rolexes retail Pedestrian. That's why we're here.
Yeah, no, my dad gave my brother the Rolex Presidente, the solid gold watch and stuff.
Sure.
And like I said, I was into dive watches, and so for a short minute I got into the chunky watches, but I no offense to anybody watching, I am not a fan of Richard Mille watches. Right, I just think of that as kind of flash. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or there's the other guy has a cool watch, but it looks like a casino or pinball machine going off inside of him. I forget what his name is. They're interesting, but they're not the thing. So all my watches are about diving, and I really lusted after another watch. There's Scuba Pro editions that I was one in Hawaii. I was trying to buy it, I couldn't buy it in time. But my favorite, so I got into the larger watches, but I don't like the Richard Mille ones. Let me see what I got here.
Quick commercial break here to ask you, have you seen all of the cool resources, downloads, and guides waiting for you at watchsmarts.com? Go check it out. You'll love it. Well, most of our listeners also don't have like $250,000 to $2 million to drop on a Richard Mille, so I think they're going to be okay.
But the thing is, even if I did, it's not my style to run around with bling.
Yes.
Right. That's
very blingy.
Right. That's your get out of your Lamborghini at the club in Miami Beach. Do you know what I mean? It's not
totally.
Right. So no offense to all you fans and all that other stuff. It's just not my thing. It's not.
Yeah.
But I do like, my favorite chunky watch is an Invicta Venom, which I fell in love with this one.
Oh, that's nice. Look at
But
that.
this thing is like a weapon. It's massive. And the funny thing is, I got into watch making stuff and I went to change the battery, and it's this little tiny electric mechanism. I mean, there's all this metal around this little fragile, tiny
Yeah.
quartz thing. And you're just like, wow. I mean, you make this big production around a tiny watch, but I just love that it was easy to read. It was black mother of pearl. It's got 3 subdials, and it's got the locking. So this one can go down super deep,
Yeah.
1,000 meters, right? Because you lock down the pushers.
And that looks fairly big on the wrist. That's like 48
huge.
millimeters or 50 or more.
Oh, it's embarrassingly huge. So it's kind of hypocrite to talk about the meals being so huge, but I did fall in love with this one.
Yeah.
And chunky is not in anymore. And then I traded it out for a shark. What do you call it?
The bracelet. Yeah.
Yeah, the shark mesh, which I just loved. Is super cool. But I mean, you really feel the weight on your body.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful watch. Yeah, and the thing is when you're diving. See, the thing is, a lot of times when you're diving, is that your mask fogs up, right? Because if you have any moisture, and then the heat off your face fogs your entire mask. So nobody wants a tiny watch that's hard to read. Right.
Yes.
And I'm getting older and it becomes even harder. So bigger, easy to read watches are the thing. That was the nice thing about it. So one of the things that was critical to me on getting any watch like that, which was easy to read dial. Easy to read if you could barely see. Because I've been with a fog mask, can't see anything. And that watch, you need to know what time it is, or else you could get all kinds of trouble. So
Right.
Yeah. Here's one that my brother saw. I could see the envy in his eyes. This is kind of one that's, how do I explain this one? Let me try. Let me see if I have another version of it. Let's see. But this one was another one that I loved that looked like it would go, a professional deep diver would use.
Yes.
Right. And the thing is, what they did to make it look chunkier is they just didn't cut in the indents that you would see like on a Willard. Do you know what a Willard is?
I don't actually.
Oh, okay. So the Willard is Captain Willard was Apocalypse Now, Charlie Sheen's character.
Okay.
Okay. So the people in Vietnam issued these watches. And these guys were they were in hell, right? And the thing is, the military issued watches were crap. So everyone went to the PX and bought themselves a what do we call these things? I forget what I'm trying to. I think it was Seiko. Yeah, it was a Seiko, and they got this. Now they usually cut an indent. They call these a cushion case.
Yes.
This is called a cushion case. And they would cut this indent to kind of reduce the weight and do all that other stuff. But it looks so much chunkier when you don't cut away all that excess. So this is basically a Willard without the cushion case being cut down. So it really has a nice, but you can see, even if my camera's, you can still read the time no matter,
Just about. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, and I love the bezels. I love bezels. So let me see what else I have.
Kevin, you mentioned Doxa, which typically the Doxa makes all kinds of styles, but they're probably best known for the orange dial.
Yes,
like that's kind of like their signature.
I love
piece.
that one.
Do you have one, or do you lust after one?
No, because the thing is, if I got a Doxa, I would wait. Because the thing is, because I'm an old school diver, they had an edition called, I think it was Aqualung. Okay, so Carroll Shelby, everyone called it a Mustang, but because Carroll Shelby bought the frame, he made it into a GT500.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing was, he heard that this company was going to announce a new edition of their called King of the Road. And the King of the Road, he liked that term. So he beat whoever's idea it was to the trademark office and trademark King of the Road. So he basically heard about it and went and grabbed it. So he came out with the GT500, I believe. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was the GT500. And then he put a KR, like little badge, on the side of the fender. Same freaking car. They put that KR in there, and the car went up in 10K in value. Nothing else was different about that car. Okay. Yeah. So the same thing is the feeling of a Doxa that has an Aqualand. It's like a scuba tank logo with the double hose regulator. I was certified so long ago. My instructor had a double hose regulator, those big ones that come around your face like that. Yeah. And the gas comes out the back of the tank, not up near your face, which is actually good because when the bubbles come up, they hit your mask and they make a lot of noise in your ears. So it's actually kind of nice to have the bubbles come out the back. But yeah, so you don't want to go halfway there to the thing you want, right? Yeah. And so they still, I think they have some reissues, but I would want the Aqualand one. They did the same thing with, God, I can't remember the name of the watch. I think it was a Seiko, where they did a Decor. A lot of people, Decor, White Stag. These were all the 70s dive companies. And so they had a Decor watch. And it was just like, that old logo gets me. You know what I mean? It's like, that was my, I wasn't even a teenager yet in scuba diving, and those were the logos that were on our snorkels and all that other stuff. So having that on the dial is like King of the Road. It just made a difference. It just makes a difference. So I'll wait for that. But I'm slowed down. I mean, I got all watchmaking equipment. I got there was a watch. I do like mechanical watches. I like mechanical things, but I got a watch. I'll just go just for a second. Sure. And I got this special wrench that has a big wheel on it to open the back of open the circular back, right? I mean, a big ass, like a, thing. And it has a wheel on it. And I opened the back of this one watch open. And I was like, they sold me the wrong watch with the wrong mechanism in it. It took forever to get this thing opened. Then I found out it was a Landeron 248 mechanism. And they're worth a good amount of money. And this thing, I never knew Landerons were polished. I always thought they just had flat. And it's like, no, this watch had never been opened. And it just happened to have a brand spanking new polished Landeron in it. And I was like, all right, I'm closing this back up as soon as possible and put it away. I've never seen on any photos, on any on any websites, a Landeron that looked this pristine. And so I put that away. But that was more of it wasn't a dive watch. It was just a nice watch. But I got into at least changing my own damn batteries and stuff, Yeah. You got to pull the batteries out. So I know I went off on a thing.
No, it's great. Well, so tell me a little bit more about, you said you have a whole bunch of watch equipment, like you have a workbench, or tell me what do you tinker with the insides of watches sometimes?
So I did love the, like I said, the slide rule. Slide rule one. I've got that put away. I can't find it right now to bring it up, but it wasn't working, so I was tearing it open to work on it. Yeah, I was not good at it. I was able to take it apart, and I was able to put it back together and let my breath out, But I got all the little tweezers. I got all the little pushers for things for pressing in jewels. You know what I would love? You know what I think would be worth a good amount of money? Is everyone loves those childhood Mickey Mouse watches. Oh, yeah. But they're all pin and plate. You know those pin and plate? Do you know what I mean? No. Okay, so Mickey, when God, who made the original Mickey Mouse watch? It was Ingersoll. Ingersoll made the original pin and lever watches. They sold as a Mickey Mouse watch. You get it at Disneyland. Yeah. But the thing is, they were like the most simplest make as money cash grab you could get ever, right? And they had this, and it was a beautiful mechanism for how rinky dink it was. But I think that there could be a lot of money for anybody that goes and takes those pin and levers and jewels all of them, so it actually becomes a reliable watch. Yeah, did you know about the rejeweling? Okay, so you can
Not at
rejewel the
all.
plates. So you have a pendulum and a mechanism on a pivot, right? And that's what's doing your timing. You have an escapement, and that's the moving part. Runs on a spring, and it does all this stuff. But the thing is, if you look at a watch, like a mechanical watch, if you look on the back or the front, you'll see something that says like 17 joules.
Yes.
Okay. Those joules are the count of how many. It was usually like a sapphire or a ruby, which for the most part is a colored diamond as far as I know. But anyways, it's such a hard metal and it's so polished that it doesn't wear out. But on these Mickey Mouse ones, they just had like a metal pin that was sandwiched between two metal plates, and it lasted for long enough for a person to end up needing to buy one next year. But it was never precision because the hole wasn't tight.
Sure.
And the hole would get oval. It would wear out on the plate because it was being used so much. The metal was just because there was no lubrication. But the people would put jewels in there so that the pins would not eat away at the plate they were rotating in. And so what people do is they drill out that hole and then they take a donut jewel, like a ruby, and then they push it in, and then the pin goes in that instead, and so nothing wears out anymore, and you have actually more accurate timing. But yeah, I got it. My dad and me and my brothers, we all get really obsessed with something for a minute, and then we let it go. And so I was getting into the visor with the magnifying glasses. I was getting into the scopes, the digital video scopes, and doing all that stuff. I was able to do some stuff, but then I lost interest, and I still like watches. I have one favorite watch. I'll show you.
Yeah, tell me.
I'll show you a couple. Okay, this was one of this one, I'm trying to remember. I think this one was a gift, which is a very Doxa-ish one.
It is, orange.
Yeah, and this thing is very popular. And this is like the original OG first one. So everybody wants this one.
Yeah.
So, but I love these. Easy to read. They have.
And Kevin, who makes that guy?
This is the Seiko. Seiko is probably my favorite watch brand.
Yeah.
Okay. But, so that was one that I got. And the thing is, I've gotten certain things that just turned out popular later. You get this back in the day and you didn't know. It was like I didn't know my G-Shock would be worth $1,000 because it was like a $60 watch. And it just turned into this. This one's another one that just turned into a very popular, highly sought after watch. And none of you're talking hundreds. I'm not talking thousands or anything.
Sure.
Like that. But here's one that I think it had to be done in somewhere in Asia. This one has the Scuba Pro. Let me see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It has a Scuba the Pro phase. And that makes the pricing very different. Another cushion. Love this one. This is old school stuff. Like when you watch old school diver shows and movies. But another, the weird part is this one was designed not as a single rotation. In diving, you usually only want a one-way rotating bezel because if you're counting downtime, you don't want to accidentally count back your time and find out you were, so usually these are one-way bezels, but these back in the time of the Willards actually just had a detent that could go in either direction. Yeah. But one of my favorites is this one, which is they call it an orca.
Oh, nice.
Because it looks like a killer whale's colors.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of my absolute favorite watches. Easy to read. These have the little thing, so if you're wearing a glove, you can still turn the watch.
Oh yeah, that's right. The big notches. Yeah.
Yeah, but the nice thing about these is they're eco drives.
Yeah.
You never need a battery.
Solar.
As long as you don't keep this thing in a drawer, this thing will run forever. Nice rubber. You know what I think is the silliest thing I've ever seen now that I mentioned the rubber strap is anyone has a dive watch with a leather strap.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are not a diver. Nobody dives with a leather strap. Right. Why do you have a leather strap? That just tells me you don't even take a shower or wash your hands with your watch.
Right.
So, but these also glow like crazy in the dark. They're just super easy to read.
Yeah.
And then I did a hack. So I got several of them. And so I liked this watch, but then I love the color blue. So I got this one in a blue.
Oh, nice.
But the thing is, I have a third one, which I made out of hacking two of these open. So this watch doesn't exist anywhere on the planet because I swapped out. This has, it's hard to tell, but you can see a midnight ocean on here.
Okay.
Moonlit ocean on here.
Yeah.
In this blue instead of just a straight out flat blue.
Yeah.
And so this original blue strap watch had this dial on it, this head unit. And I was like, no. I love bracelets.
Yeah.
So I ended up, and you couldn't get the bracelet in the moonlit water one. You could not buy it. But the thing is, there was an outlet that hit me. These are normally like, I think they're close to, I forget how much. They're hundreds of dollars. But there's an outlet, a refurb outlet, that somehow found me on eBay and sold it me for like 25% of the price. And so this is my absolute favorite watch.
And who makes that brand, Kevin?
This is a Citizen Eco Drive.
The Citizen again. Okay.
And the thing was, back when this came out, let me see if I can show you this. Back when this came out, this was the back. This is a titanium body.
Yeah.
This is titanium, right? And so that's why it has that color to it. But see this back, right?
Yeah.
That's the back it had on the very first edition. But this was on the watch forums, and the people on the watch forums named it Orca because of the black and white.
Yeah.
But when the new editions came out, this was the back they put on.
Oh, they put the
they took the fans thing and put the Orca on the back.
Yes.
That's how popular it was as watch.
That's great.
Yeah. So but I've always loved bracelet on these things. So
now, do you buy? So it sounds like you mentioned eBay. Mm-hmm. Do you prefer to buy new, or do you kind of hunt for pre-owned?
If I could have my way, my search terms for eBay, and that's why I'd be shopping on eBay. And I don't spend a lot of money there, but that's where it's like kind of like a Pinterest dream board and stuff. Yes. My favorite category to search for on eBay, which is very hard to find, is a vintage dive chronograph. And the dive chronographs aren't very popular because it's very hard to have pushers and keep the thing sealed.
Yeah.
Right. So the very first waterproof watch, I think it was a Rolex. I'm pretty sure it was a Rolex. But what they'd done is they took a watch and then they put a little screw on it, like a canteen.
Yeah, the screw down crown. Yes.
Yeah, but they put a thing that screwed down over the.
And then the canteen lid, sure, on top of the crown,
all the way over the entire top. Yes. with a black O-ring in it.
Yes.
But that was the way that they got the first watches to be waterproof.
Yeah.
But later on, they figured out they could put like double or triple seals on the pushers and make them waterproof. But you would, if you'd have to service them regularly because those O-rings were going to wear out.
Yeah.
So, but a chronograph, a vintage chronograph dive watch is my favorite category to look around and find. Not tachymeter.
No.
I love them when they have the subdials. Subdials are harder to read.
Yes.
But
you can have a high contrast dial and hands even with the subdials.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But you are going to have, you can't have a fog mask if you're looking at some subdials.
Right.
I mean, at least, you got to be better off. Right. So now the thing is, I would probably get special in the fact that, you get me a vintage chronograph dive watch, I'm probably not going to dive with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'd probably get to the point where I wouldn't worry about it if I was washing my hands or in the pool or something like that. But there's, if you're going to dive, this is what I'm going to dive with. Right.
Yes.
And this is,
But you enjoy wearing the other ones when you're not diving, just because
Oh,
that's your style, and of course, it reminds you of your
yes, this is
diving
my
identity.
absolute favorite watch. You could give me more expensive watches, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't care. And I have other ones here. Here's another watch that. This is a watch when I was young. I just got it at a store or something. This one's kind of gray, and the watch strap broke because it's that PU plastic, polyurethane plastic.
Yeah.
And so the thing watch, I put it off in a drawer, but I always loved this watch.
Hey, David Newman here with a quick commercial break. Have you seen our social media channels that have video snippets from our favorite interviews? Check us out on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Now, back to the episode.
For 20 years, I couldn't find this watch. And the only reason I couldn't find it is I didn't know the search term to put on it, this is the Nike Oregon watch, which is weird because it's like a dive watch, like Oregon, but Oregon coast. Yeah. So, but this one is one of the most beautiful watches. I like these watches. I all like when you look at them, you look like you're looking down into an underwater world or something. Do you know what I mean? It's its own little intimate living space. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I love about the watchmaking is it's this little world of perfection. It's like, how do you get micro perfection? It's not just perfect from here. It's perfect with close-up magnification. You have the most polished, most perfected, I don't know if you've seen how some of these dials get made for when they're made of, porcelain or whatever. And like 2 out of 3 of them when they're being made crack and break, and so they have to keep trying to, and then they use this printing ball to print the dial on the numbers and stuff. But yeah, this watch, I was so glad when I found it, but it was another Franken thing. I had to go get the right, because they sell them that don't have these 3 pushers. But yeah, this is very comfortable, very easy, and I just liked that it was a little world. Then here's another.
It sounds like you also enjoy the hunt itself, correct?
A little bit. Yeah. Yes. I love discovering something new that fits within my rules. I have a set of things like, no, it's not this. No tachymeter.
Yeah.
I would love to have. I don't. You know what? One of the worst things. It's worse than a tachymeter. Is a watch that pretends it has a movable bezel, but it doesn't. Right. I'm like, that is just why. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if you've ever gone to Disneyland or something and you're waiting in line, or Star Wars, and you look on the walls and it looks like all this complicated stuff. They have a Hollywood term for it where it just looks like it's busy, but it's not. It has not, it's non-functional. That's what I think of a frozen bezel.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't like those. But even like anything that's big and easy to read, this is just an old Swatch.
Oh,
but I was like, I got to have this one. And I saw the case for this sucker. I don't think it was ever open until I opened it. But
how about that? That's a huge bezel on that guy.
Yeah. And it's just a cheapy watch. But I remember I used to work with photographers on a photo shoot, and they had one of these that was silver. And it was the art director sitting there. I was lusting after this watch. And, he would just work. He had just done jobs with Swatch, so he got free watches.
Right.
And I was just like, oh, that's too cool. And that's when Swatch was making it that it was like fashion accessories where you didn't own a watch. It was like, okay, I'm wearing white today, so I'm going to wear this white Swatch. So a person would have a whole collection like Funko Pops. Funko Pops? Yeah.
Sure.
So stuff like that. But then, and this one was a dive watch. That's all it took to sell me was it has a dive flag on it. And, but it's got a hefty, whatchamacallit on it. And then let me show you some of the vintage looking ones. There's 2 or 3 that are really nice.
That's also interesting. So the vintage looking has the vintage aesthetic, but it's got the modern reliability.
Yes, absolutely. But I do prefer, when I'm buying those types of watches, I do prefer them to be mechanical.
Yes.
I do. But, life is life. But the one thing I don't like about older vintage watches is, okay, so back in the day, There, the quartz crisis, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the quartz crisis came along. But back then, I don't, when I was a kid, my dad, everyone thought I was a drug dealer because I drove around with the first roll of brick cell phone, right? Yeah. Massive phone, right? But I remember this SNL skit where there was some, hoity-toity fashion guy played by Will Ferrell, and he opens up the world's smallest flip phone, and, because he's so cool, he's got the smallest flip phone. Yeah. But the thing is, back before the quartz crisis on the mechanical watches, if you were the person that had that was most in style or had the latest stuff, you actually had a smaller watch because it took more tech and skill to make a smaller watch. Yeah. The problem was when you're diving, these people would actually have lady-sized vintage dive watches. Today, we would consider them lady-sized. They were men's size back then, but they were lady-sized today. And so their faces and their what do they call the markings? I forget what they call the markings. They have a name for
indices.
It. Yeah, the indices. But I fall in love with the older type.
Yeah.
Right. And these are a little bit smaller. The people that are the purists to get the older stuff, this one's frozen.
That's like a 36 millimeter, roughly.
Yeah. And actually, I know this one. This is a friction bezel, and it's super tight. Now that I remember. Yeah. But it's got the softest. There's really soft plastic straps.
Sure.
But there's another one here. This one's from About Vintage.
Oh, that looks very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a third one that I fell in love with. And this is the one you had to deliberately let get patina like an old dive helmet.
Oh, yeah. That's beautiful. Is that blue, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a blue person.
Very nice.
I'm a sucker for the blue.
That's so good. Well, Kevin, we have to land the plane here. I wanted to ask you. So, number one, thank you for taking us on such a fantastic tour of your collection. No problem. If people are getting into dive watches, and whether they're a diver or just they like the look of a dive watch, like you love the look of your dive watches, what would be a parting words of wisdom or just some final thoughts about people looking at getting more into dive watches? Well, the first thing I would ask is, are you a real diver? Then you want to get a watch that really works. Yes. If you're going to do that, and there's watches that come with computers, and you can also dive with a computer, and you can skip the watch altogether. It'll even keep a track on your O2 levels. You'll have everything you need. But if you want a watch that's going to be rugged, just get a G-Shock. If you want something a little more whatever, I would get a Citizen Aqualand. Any version. There's some really cool Aqualands out there. That's the one that if you want a little extra info, maybe you want to know your depth or something. Yeah. The older Aqualands are super cool, the original OG ones, but they have new ones that do even more. And get one that's really easy to read. That's what I would do. And get something that's reliable. But if you're into the vintage stuff, that's just that's like, I used to own MGBs. It's just a labor of love keeping those things running and, lubed and maintained and stuff like that. And so that's just work. So it just depends if you're using it as a nostalgic thing or using it as a functional thing. But if you're using a functional thing, get the Aqualand stuff. I can hear it in your voice and through your experience that when you say labor of love, you are underlining labor about 3 times.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Kevin Halbert, thank you for being with us and sharing your wisdom. I appreciate you a lot. Thanks for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up another episode of Watch Smarts. Listen, if you love this show, if you love watches, subscribe, download, leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, and check out all the free resources waiting for you at watchsmarts.com.